Welcome to the Yokai Iceberg Explained, where we explore the strange and sometimes disturbing world of these Japanese creatures in order from most well known to the extremely obscure. But first, what are yokai? To put it simply, yokai is an umbrella term that covers everything from ghosts to cryptids to demons to minor godlike beings and everything in between. Tengu. Tengu are one of the most well-known and oldest documented yokai. Like most ancient yokai, they originate from a blending of Chinese and Japanese mythological traditions in the mid-1st millennia AD. The concept of Tengu first appeared in Japan around the 6th century, influenced by Chinese legends of the Tiangu, or heavenly dog. These celestial creatures were often associated with meteorological phenomena like comets or shooting stars, and were considered harbingers of war and disaster. The earliest Japanese record of the Tengu is found in the Nihon Shoki, an ancient chronicle describing a heavenly dog that caused a disturbance and was interpreted as an ominous sign. Despite the name, they were not depicted as dogs, but rather birds or monkeys. Beginning in the Heian period, which ran from the 8th century to the 12th century AD, Tengu underwent a radical shift away from their Chinese inspiration. Tengu began to be depicted as monstrous, bird-like creatures with both avian and human features. Their present appearance and characteristics began to crystallize during this era, influenced by Buddhist and Shinto tradition. By the 13th century, Tengu imagery had finally completely shifted. They were depicted as part human, part bird figures, often resembling priests or monks, specifically mountain ascetics of the Shugendo tradition. During the Kamakura period running from 1185 to 1333, Tengu legends became more widespread, portraying them as both protectors and punishers. They were often involved in stories of abductions and possessions, where their victims, particularly children and monks, would be returned in a state of delirium or profound change. Tengu are renowned for their supernatural abilities. They're masters of martial arts and are said to have taught these skills to legendary warriors. One of their most famous powers is their control over the wind, and they are often depicted with a magical feather fan that can stir up powerful gusts. Their abilities also include shape-shifting and possession. Tengu can transform into human or animal forms and possess people, particularly those with weak or corrupt spirits. This has made them figures of both fear and reverence in Japanese religious and cultural traditions. There are generally two main types of Tengu: Dai-Tengu, or Great Tengu, and Ko-Tengu, or Small Tengu. The Dai-Tengu are considered more powerful and are often depicted as human-like figures with long noses, while the Ko-Tengu are more bird-like and considered less intelligent. Tanuki. The tanuki, also known as the Japanese raccoon dog, is a yokai which blends the characteristics of a real animal with mythological attributes. These creatures, native to Japan, have been part of the cultural landscape for millennia, evolving from malevolent spirits to symbols of good luck and celebration. Historically, the tanuki's roots in Japanese mythology date back to the 4th and 7th centuries, having likely been introduced from Chinese mythology. Early depictions cast the tanuki as malevolent beings capable of haunting humans by taking on human appearances. Over time, however, these creatures transformed into more humorous and benign figures. By the Edo period, running from 1603 to 1868, they were widely depicted in art and stories as playful tricksters with the ability to shapeshift into various objects and beings. The tanuki's shapeshifting abilities are central to its mythical status. These creatures could transform into anything from a beautiful woman to an inanimate object. One famous tale, Bunbuku Chagama, tells of a tanuki that transforms into a tea kettle and becomes part of a monk's lucrative circus act before revealing its true form. In terms of physical appearance, the real tanuki is often mistaken for a raccoon due to its similar features, including a bushy tail and facial markings. However, it is a distinct species, more closely related to dogs and wolves. In folklore, tanuki are depicted with exaggerated features such as large bellies, which they use like drums. Also, male tanuki have absolutely enormous sacks, which are said to stretch and be used for various practical purposes, from fishing nets to umbrellas, as well as to woo female tanuki. Statues of tanuki, often depicted wearing straw hats and carrying sake bottles, are common outside restaurants and bars, symbolizing prosperity and inviting patrons to join in merrymaking. Modern representations of tanuki in popular culture include their appearances in video games and films. For example, the tanuki suit in the Super Mario series allows Mario to fly and transform into a statue. Studio Ghibli's film Pompoko explores the lives of tanuki fighting against urban development. This film prominently features some of the more quote-unquote interesting anatomical features on the male tanuki. Despite their playful and sometimes mischievous nature, tanuki are generally seen as harmless and endearing. The kappa. Kappa are described as reptilian creatures with scaly skin in hues of yellow, green, and blue, sporting a tortoise shell on their backs. Their distinctive feature, a small bowl-like dent on their heads called the sara, holds water that is believed to be the source of their magical powers. This element underscores their vulnerability. Without it, they lose their strength and could potentially perish. Yet, if one were to refill the sara, the kappa would be bound by gratitude to serve the person until the person who saved it passed away. This led to supposed methods on how to trick a kappa to spill its dish, allowing one to refill the dish and gain a powerful servant. The kappa's politeness is one of its most significant weaknesses. If a person bows deeply to a kappa, cultural etiquette dictates that the kappa must return the gesture. If the person bows deep enough, this action forces the kappa to reciprocate, causing the water in its dish to spill, rendering the kappa powerless and immobilized. Other strategies include challenging it to a physical contest or a game of skill, generally a board game. Beware though if this is your approach to a kappa, as kappa are extremely skilled sumo wrestlers and also great board gamers. Another interesting way to neutralize a kappa is to present your rear to it, and as the kappa approaches, release a barrage of farts directly in its face. Historically, kappa have been blamed for drownings, as folklore often depicted them luring humans and animals into water with their remarkable wrestling skills previously discussed. Their legend is filled with tales of their thirst for human blood, livers, or a theorized organ called the shirikodama, a ball said to contain the soul, situated within the buttocks. Yes, you heard that right. Kappas feast on what may be a description of the prostate. Despite these dark attributes, kappa were also known to impart medical knowledge to humans, such as bone setting and the creation of medicinal salves. Transitioning into the Edo period, the portrayal of kappa underwent significant transformation. Once feared for their deadly nature, kappa were reimagined in illustrated books as comical or even endearing figures. Further, during this period, kappa were often portrayed as perverts, generally for comic effect. In modern contexts, kappa have transcended their ominous origins to become a cultural mascot of sorts. Their image has been sanitized and commercialized. They now feature in manga, commercials, and serve as mascots. This evolution from feared creatures to beloved characters reflects a broader trend of yokai adaptation within Japanese media and pop culture. Further, this also fits the broader human cultural narrative of feared cryptids slowly becoming local mascots for the populations they once supposedly terrorized. And one more thing, kappa are often placed next to dangerous bodies of water to discourage swimming by both children and adults. The Oni. Oni are iconic yokai from Japanese folklore, representing supernatural demons or ogres. Historically, they are depicted as menacing creatures with formidable strength and a fearsome appearance, often portrayed with red or blue skin, wild hair, and horns. The origins of Oni in Japanese culture can be traced back to ancient texts like the Nihon Shoki and Kojiki, where they are described as malevolent spirits inhabiting remote mountains or islands. They are typically seen wielding iron clubs known as kanabo, symbolizing their brute strength. In folklore, Oni often play the role of antagonists in morality tales, where they are overcome by heroes demonstrating bravery and virtue. Classic stories such as Momotaro and Isunboshi depict battles between these heroes and Oni, symbolizing the triumph of good over evil. Interestingly, Oni are not always portrayed negatively. In some cultural interpretations, they are considered protectors who guard villages and sacred spaces from evil spirits. This dual nature is evident in rituals like the festival of Setsubun, where Oni are driven out to bring good fortune and health, illustrating their complex role within Japanese mythology. Beans hold significant importance in relation to Oni, particularly during the Setsubun festival. Setsubun, which marks the division between seasons, is celebrated each year in early February. One of the key customs of this festival is the ritual known as mamemaki, or bean throwing. During mamemaki, roasted soybeans are thrown either out the door or at a person dressed as an Oni, while chanting the equivalent of demons out, luck in. The act of throwing beans is believed to cleanse the home by driving away evil spirits and misfortune, and inviting in happiness and prosperity for the coming year. To explain the mechanics of this more, the Oni placated by the offering of the beans are expected to force all the other malevolent spirits to pack up their bags and go. Further, traditionally, one of the people throwing the beans was supposed to be a very strong, muscular man who was also a skilled wrestler. This man was supposed to act as additional defense against the Oni, should the Oni want more beans. The Oni's influence extends beyond folklore into arts and popular culture. They are a popular subject in traditional Japanese art, theater, and modern media like manga and anime, as well as video games. Given their previous association with certain mountains and islands, Oni make great mascots for these places in a famously mascot-obsessed nation. Kitsune. Kitsune, a type of fox spirit, are one of the most fascinating and complex figures in Japanese folklore. Kitsune are known for their intelligence, magical abilities, and shape-shifting powers. As they age, their abilities grow stronger, and they can develop up to 9 tails, a symbol of their wisdom and power. And yes, for those Pokemon fans out there, this is the explanation for the evolution of Vulpix into 9 tails. The origins of the Kitsune legend can be traced back to Chinese folklore, where fox spirits were believed to possess similar abilities. These tales made their way to Japan and merged with local beliefs, giving rise to the unique figure of the kitsune. The earliest mentions of kitsune in Japanese literature date back to the 8th century AD, with significant references found in the Nihon Shoki and the Konjaku Monogatari. Kitsune are often associated with the Shinto deity Inari, the god of rice, fertility, and prosperity. As a quick aside, Inari is perhaps the most widely celebrated Shinto deity. When you imagine a Shinto shrine, you are, with near certainty, imagining an Inari shrine, with its numerous vermilion gates called torii. Inari's messengers are believed to be white foxes, known as Zenko, who are benevolent and bring good fortune. These foxes are often depicted in statues at Inari shrines throughout Japan. Notably, it is commonly believed that Inari, who is variously depicted as either male or female depending on the context, and is sometimes understood to be genderless, is a kitsune. However, these are simply the messengers of Inari. However, complicating matters further, Inari does have the ability to present as a kitsune should it please. On the other hand, there are also wild and mischievous foxes called nogitsune, who are not bound to serve any deity and are known for their trickery and malevolent behavior. One of the most famous stories involving this creature is the legend of Tamamo no Mai, a beautiful woman who served in the imperial court. Plot twist: she was later revealed to be a nine-tailed fox in disguise. This kitsune was secretly disrupting the imperial court. To drop perhaps my favorite quote of all time, "Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder." Kitsune shape-shifting abilities are acquired after living for 100 years. They can transform into various human forms, including that of young women, old men, or even specific individuals to create illusions and play tricks. Despite their ability to blend in, kitsune often have telltale signs of their true nature, such as a foxtail that they struggle to hide completely. These fox spirits also possess other magical abilities. They can generate foxfire, a type of flame created by their tails, and some can control the elements or manipulate time and space. Kitsune are also said to have psychic powers, allowing them to possess humans or enter their dreams to deliver messages or cause mischief. Their most prized possession is the Hoshi no Tama, a glowing ball that contains their spirit and grants them their powers. Their complexity makes kitsune fascinating characters, embodying both the protective and the trickster archetypes in Japanese mythology, religion, and folklore. The Rokurokubi. The Rokurokubi is a yokai that closely resembles a human, but with some very peculiar differences. Some can stretch their necks to great lengths, while other forms of them, known as nukakubi, have heads that detach and fly independently. The Rokurokubi, much like many elements now associated with Japanese culture, gained traction during the Edo period. These beings appear as normal women during the day, but undergo a startling transformation at night. Some Rokurokubi are said to be unaware of their condition, attributing their nighttime prowling to nightmares, while others are supposedly fully conscious of their nature. Despite their human appearance, some legends suggest that Rokurokubi can be identified by white marks on their necks, or by their tendency to sleep with their heads in their laps. And yes, I would consider it a strong indicator that the individual you discover sleeping may not be human, if she's elongated her neck so she can use her legs as a pillow. The origins of Rokurokubi vary, with some accounts attributing their condition to religious or spiritual transgressions, thereby cursing them to live among humans as monsters. According to this belief, they seek out and punish those who disrespect Buddhist precepts, sometimes through deadly means. Under this formulation, Rokurokubi are only a threat to those who act in a transgressive manner. Other explanations offer a psychological perspective, suggesting that the transformation symbolizes a suppressed desire, with the affected individuals unaware of their true condition. Rokurokubi stories are rich and varied across different regions and texts, featuring in numerous Edo period tales. And these tales are legitimately creepy, so I'm going to take a moment to recount a few of the best very briefly. In one story from the Kashiyawa, a peddler tells a husband that a white dog's liver can cure his wife's illness. After the dog is slain and the liver administered, their next-born daughter becomes a Rokurokubi. Another account from the Shusai Hiki mentions a male Nukekubi, illustrating that while these beings are usually female, male examples exist. One particularly unnerving story, called Churio Manroku, reads like something out of a modern horror novel. In this tale, which translates to English as Rokurukobi Village, a traveler comes upon an isolated mountain town where everyone wears a headscarf. As you will recall, Rokurokubi have distinctive marks on the back of their necks, which reveal their true yokai nature. The traveler ends up discovering that the reason everyone wears a headscarf is to cover up the white mark. But spoiler alert, by this time it was too late for the poor traveler. Rokurokubi are a staple of the modern Japanese horror genre, presumably due to inherently scary nature of a normal-looking woman's head detaching or her neck elongating. The Nekomata. The Nekomata is perhaps the most iconic and feared cat yokai from Japanese folklore. The story may have its origins in a Chinese cat demon called the Senri. The Senri were noted to achieve great spiritual power in old age, and achieve the power to shapeshift into a beautiful man or woman. Nekomata are domestic cats which have, quote, gone rogue by running away into the mountains in their old age and gaining additional powers while there. Further, when they become Nekomata, they gain a second tail, which apparently enhances their magical abilities. Nekomata are generally considered to be cats who were treated terribly by their owners. One account from the 18th century in the Yamato Kaiki tells of a haunted house owned by a samurai which was plagued by unexplainable disturbances. The source of the trouble was revealed to be the family's elderly cat, which had transformed into a Nekomata. This tale, like many others, highlights the Nekomata's association with malevolent activities and their ability to bring about chaos. Nekomata are often confused with their somewhat more benevolent counterparts, the Bakaneko. While Bakaneko are mischievous and capable of shapeshifting, Nekomata are known for more sinister powers, such as necromancy, the ability to control the dead. This distinction makes the Nekomata particularly feared. Their malevolence is further illustrated by their ability to summon fires, a trait that has cemented their reputation as dangerous beings. Ancient folklore depicts these creatures as vengeful spirits, particularly targeting those who have wronged them. The older and more mistreated a cat is before its transformation, the more potent its powers as a Nekomata become. This has led to various superstitions, including the severing of cats' tails, to prevent their transformation into these dreaded yokai. Cultural depictions of Nekomata vary, with Edo period illustrations often showing them in human forms, particularly as older women. These Nekomata are often playing the shamisen, a detail that carries an ironic twist considering that shamisen were traditionally made from cat skins. In modern times, the allure of Nekomata continues, transitioning from feared mythical beings to captivating characters in manga, anime, and other forms of pop culture. The takeaway from this one: treat your cats well, or they'll come back and burn down your house and reanimate your corpses to do evil acts. The Kasa Obake. Originating from the concept of Tsukumogami, where household objects gain a spirit after 100 years, the Kasa Obake represents an umbrella that has come to life. The creature is often characterized by a single eye, a single leg, and sometimes depicted with a long, prehensile tongue. The Kasa Obake's roots can be traced back to the Edo period, when it became popularly depicted in art of the era. But more on this in a moment. Its depiction often varies, but the core elements, a playful spirit, a single eye, and the ability to hop around on one leg, remain virtually consistent across interpretations. Powers attributed to the creature include its ability to startle or surprise humans, often in a playful rather than malevolent manner. While it can sometimes use its tongue to lick people, this action is more mischievous than harmful. Interestingly, despite the ubiquitous nature of this yokai in modern Japanese culture, Unlike other yokai discussed previously in this iceberg, this yokai is a much more recent invention. The leading theory is that they were invented during the Edo period to fill out the world of known yokai. At any rate, they've become so popular now that their later and likely intentionally fictional origin has been all but forgotten. The Tsuchinoko. The Tsuchinoko, a creature deeply ingrained in Japanese folklore, remains one of the country's most intriguing cryptid-type yokai. It is often compared to a snake due to its reptilian features. It stands out due to its distinctive body shape, which is significantly wider at the midsection compared to its head and tail. The creature measures between 30 and 80 centimeters in length, and is known for its alleged venomous fangs, akin to those of a viper. Unique among its supposed capabilities is the ability to perform consecutive jumps and an extraordinary myth that it can swallow its tail to roll like a wheel. Historical sightings of the Tsuchinoko date back over 1,400 years, with the creature predominantly featuring in the folklore of Western Japan. However, the creature's supposed range is throughout the entirety of the country. Interestingly, the Tsuchinoko is not only a subject of ancient myths, but has also been a part of modern-day culture, with sightings in rural areas near rivers and mountainous regions. Despite these claims, concrete evidence of the Tsuchinoko's existence remains elusive, as most accounts are based on anecdotal evidence and none have been scientifically verified. In an effort to capture this elusive creature, various local governments and organizations have offered substantial rewards, reaching up to millions of yen for a live specimen. Yet, despite these lucrative incentives, no verifiable evidence of the Tsuchinoko has been presented to claim these rewards. The phenomenon has not only spurred numerous expeditions, but has also significantly influenced local tourism and popular culture, inspiring the creation of Tsuchinoko-themed attractions and products. The diet and habitat of the Tsuchinoko are subjects of fascination as well. Reported to live in forested mountain areas near water bodies, they are said to prey on small animals such as frogs, mice, and even larger creatures as they grow. Unique among its characteristics are the Tsuchinoko's supposed abilities to swim efficiently, produce a range of vocal sounds, and an affinity for alcohol, particularly sake. Yes, you heard me right. It's a fat snake with the equivalent of a beer belly. These attributes, along with its alleged cunning and deceptive nature, add layers of complexity and intrigue to the creature's legend and suggest it was never meant to be a non-supernatural being. While the Tsuchinoko remains a significant figure in Japanese folklore, its existence as a real creature is generally not accepted. Also, I'm going to guess that this cryptid looks vaguely familiar to a fair amount of my viewing audience. Here's why. Viewers might recognize the Tsuchinoko through Dunsparce, a Pokemon inspired by this cryptid. Dunsparce, known for its unique serpentine body, shares similar traits with the Tsuchinoko, such as a chubby middle and an ability to make unusual sounds. Dunsparce's distinct design and attributes, mirroring those of the Tsuchinoko, has turned this once fairly obscure cryptid into a fairly well-known creature worldwide. The Nurikabe. The term Nurikabe translates to plaster wall, aptly describing its manifestation as an often invisible, impassable barrier that blocks or misdirects travelers, often leaving them hopelessly lost. This yokai is particularly associated with the coastal areas of Fukuoka Prefecture, though its stories are widespread across Japan. Historically, the Nurikabe is cited in various folklore accounts as an impediment to travelers, who would encounter this invisible wall and find themselves unable to proceed along their path. It was typically blamed for the mysterious disappearances or lateness of individuals, particularly during the night. Some legends associated with the creature suggest that it worked in conjunction with other supernatural entities, to force travelers to take detours into perilous areas. Once the travelers were off the main path, the Nurikabe's quote-unquote partner in crime would assail the unsuspecting traveler. This phenomenon could be resolved by striking the lower part of the wall, which would cause the Nurikabe to disappear and allow the traveler to continue on their journey. The origins of the Nurikabe are somewhat murky but intriguing. Further, unlike other prominent yokai, this one appears to predate the Edo period. One theory suggests that its legend began as an explanation for the delayed or non-arrival of travelers, possibly exacerbated by natural phenomena such as dense fog. Another interesting perspective links the appearance of the Nurikabe to the Edo period's architectural innovation, plaster walls. However, since the Nurikabe was documented prior to the Edo period, this connection appears to reflect the way folklore evolves with technological advancements. Another traditional explanation for them is that they aren't actually a yokai, but rather that they're the result of tanuki magic. Under this theory, a tanuki shapeshifts into a wall to play a practical joke on travelers. Also interestingly, the concept of this yokai has been adopted quite heavily into Japanese video games. Some have speculated that womps in the Mario series, large stone blocks that drop down, impede the player's progress, are based on the Nurikabe. However, I wasn't able to find any official confirmation of this theory, and as such, it remains a hypothesis at present. Other usages in games allegedly come from JRPGs, wherein invisible barriers are presented to players to block off areas that the developers don't want the player visiting yet. The Bakaneko. Originating from a time when cats were both revered and mistrusted, the Bakaneko is portrayed as a supernatural entity with a variety of unsettling abilities. At its core, the Bakaneko is believed to be a transformed creature, evolving from an ordinary domestic cat into something much more sinister. That said, the Bakaneko is not nearly as sinister as the Nekomata, which was just discussed recently. This transformation, according to lore, could occur under specific conditions. The cat needed to be of a certain age, weight, and often possess a peculiarly long tail. This led to a unique cultural response during the Edo period, particularly due to the cat's role in protecting all forms of farms, but in particular, silkworm farms from rodents. Cats became invaluable, yet their potential transformation into Bakaneko, or even a Nekomata, cast a shadow of fear. The legend of the Bakaneko evolved into various narratives and practices throughout Japan. In Edo-era folklore, Bakaneko were said to disguise themselves as humans, particularly women, to engage in deceptive and malevolent activities. This led to the creation of urban legends such as the Bakaneko paid companionship workers. Yes, you heard that right. Bakaneko would transform themselves into ladies of the night and have relations with human men. A renowned story of the Bakaneko involves Takasu Genbei, a samurai, who noticed a drastic shift in his mother's demeanor following the disappearance of their family cat years prior. She became reclusive, distancing herself from relatives and acquaintances, and isolating herself during meals in her chamber. On spying into her quarters, the family was horrified to observe a feline creature wearing the mother's attire, voraciously consuming raw meat. Despite his doubts, Takasu eliminated the entity resembling his mother. By the next day, the body reverted to that of the long-lost family cat. In a shocking discovery, Takasu uncovered his actual mother's skeleton beneath the floorboards of her room, the bones having been gnawed on. I've said it once before, and I'll say it again, but treat your family cat well. If you don't, they could come back and slay your mom and live in her house Little Red Riding Hood style. The Ningyo. The Ningyo, often described in Western contexts as a mermaid, is a yokai well established in Japanese culture. Unlike the often beautiful mermaids of Western tales, the Ningyo is generally depicted as a horrific entity. The history of the Ningyo can be traced back to various sources within ancient Japanese literature and art. One of the earliest recorded sightings was mentioned in the Shoku Nihongi in the 8th century AD, an official chronicle continued from the Nihon Shoki. This documentation suggests that the Ningyo was considered an omen, often associated with misfortune or calamity. During the Edo period, the creature was featured heavily in art, where it was depicted with a human face on a fish's body. Moreover, the Ningyo's mythos includes tales of supernatural powers. A well-known story is that of Yao Bikuni, also known as the 800-year-old nun, who supposedly lived for centuries after consuming Ningyo meat. This tale highlights the creature's association with longevity and immortality, a recurring theme in Ningyo folklore. Various other stories, both fictional and historical, involve powerful individuals seeking out the Ningyo so that they may become immortal. The Ningyo's powers are not limited to granting longevity. It is also said to weep pearls and have the ability to transform or lure humans with its appearance. It is also reputed to possess a mesmerizing singing voice. According to legend, the Ningyo's song has the power to bewitch humans, luring them into the sea, an ability it shares with sirens and mermaids from other myths. In some versions of the tales, Ningyos are shown in shrines where they are worshipped or viewed with reverence, indicating their significant cultural impact. For instance, the Tenshu Kyusha Shrine in Fujinomiya is said to house the preserved body of one of these creatures. What's up, everyone? Let me take a brief moment to promote my channel. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. Also, if you really want to take it to the next level, please consider signing up for a YouTube membership or a Patreon membership. You can support for as little as 99 cents a month. Benefits include access to exclusive videos from my early days as a YouTuber, shoutouts at certain tiers, and the satisfaction of helping keeping this channel running. The Kodama. Kodama, the mystical tree spirits of Japanese folklore, have captivated the imaginations of many through their deep-rooted connections to nature. These spirits are believed to inhabit ancient trees, acting as guardians of the forests. The earliest mentions of Kodama can be traced back to Japan's Heian period, around the 10th century. These spirits were initially described in texts like the Tale of Genji, where they were depicted as tree-dwelling entities with significant mystical importance. Kodama are deeply intertwined with the trees they inhabit. Legend has it that each Kodama is linked to a particular tree, often the oldest within a forest, and their fate is tied directly to their respective tree's well-being. If the tree perishes, so does the Kodama, and vice versa. This connection highlights a symbiotic relationship, emphasizing the interconnectedness of life and the environment. One of the most intriguing aspects of Kodama is their ability to generate sounds associated with the forest, such as echoes in the valleys and mountains, which are sometimes thought to be their voices. In times past, the sounds of the forest, particularly the echoes and the noise made by falling trees, were believed to be manifestations of Kodama. In Japanese culture, it is considered unlucky to cut down a tree housing a Kodama. This belief has led to specific practices like the Shimenawa, a sacred rope tied around trees believed to be inhabited by Kodama, marking them as protected. This practice underscores the reverential approach the Japanese have towards nature, particularly ancient forests and their spiritual inhabitants. Notably, this is likely a function of the animistic beliefs that are pervasive in Japan due to Shinto religious and cultural heritage. Furthermore, Kodama are not only protectors of individual trees, but of entire forests. They are believed to ensure the health of the forests and, by extension, play a role in the ecological balance of their environments. This protective role is complemented by their reputed supernatural powers, which include the ability to inflict harm on those who threaten their domain. However, when respected and honored, Kodama can also be benevolent guardians, also extending their protection to human communities. Over the years, the lore of Kodama has been woven into various aspects of popular culture, from literature to films and video games. Notably, they feature prominently in the Studio Ghibli film Princess Mononoke, where their enigmatic presence is felt through large portions of the movie. Akorokamui. The Akorokamui is a fascinating and mysterious cryptid-type yokai stemming from Ainu folklore, particularly associated with Funka Bay in Hokkaido. This legendary creature is often described as an enormous, octopus-like being, with some accounts likening it to a half-woman, half-octopus entity. According to folklore, the Akorokamui can reach astonishing lengths of up to 390 feet, making it amongst the largest cryptids. Its coloration is said to be a vibrant red, often compared to the reflection of a setting sun on the water, which contributes to its striking appearance. The name Akorokamui reflects its roots in Ainu culture. Kamui in Ainu language signifies a spiritual or divine being, adding a layer of reverence and spiritual significance to the creature. This sea monster is not just a figure of fear, but also one of reverence, embodying aspects of the natural and spiritual world in Ainu belief systems. The lore surrounding the Akorokamui is rich and varies slightly between sources, with some describing it as a vengeful, destructive force, while others regard it as a deity of healing and protection. The history of sightings and accounts of the creature stretches back centuries, with the most notable documented encounters dating from the 19th century. English missionary John Batchelor, who lived among the Ainu, recorded one such encounter in his writings, detailing a terrifying confrontation between local fishermen and the monstrous sea creature. These accounts add a layer of tangible history to the Akorokamui, bridging the gap between legend and potential reality. Despite its fearsome reputation, there are those who believe that the Akorokamui has healing powers, a belief that integrates the creature into Shinto practices and beliefs. Offerings and prayers to the Akorokamui are thought to heal physical ailments and injuries, showcasing the creature's dual nature as both a destroyer and a healer. Like the Kraken, there's an obvious real-world explanation for this yokai. Giant squids are well-documented elusive animals which are known for their impressive size and deep-sea habitat. They can grow up to 43 feet long, making them one of the largest creatures in the ocean. Their large size and elusive nature contribute to the mystery surrounding them, much like this cryptid. The size of the giant squid, although significant, is smaller than the lengths reported in the Akorokamui legends, which describe the creature as reaching up to 390 feet. However, the giant squid's substantial dimensions and mysterious deep-sea life could have contributed to the creation of sea monster tales. Their reddish-brown color is consistent with the color reported for this creature. Further, their enormous eyes, which are up to 10 inches in diameter, could add to their monstrous appearance in murky underwater conditions. This could have led to exaggerated reports by mariners and fishermen, and contributing to the folklore surrounding sea monsters like the Akorokamui. Also, it's important that once the legend has become established, an element of mass hysteria has the potential to take root. If a fisherman is primed to expect to see a 390-foot octopus-like creature and a 40-foot squid shows up with part of its body submerged in the depths, this easily becomes an Akorokamui. The Boroboratan. The Boroboratan is an intriguing form of yokai known as a Tsukumogami yokai. This term refers to objects that have acquired a spirit after reaching a significant age, usually 100 years, turning them into living entities with supernatural powers. The Boroboroton, in particular, is a tattered sleeping mat that has come to life, embodying the essence of something once mundane, now endowed with eerie capabilities. Appearing primarily at night, the Boroboroton is not just any old mat. It rises into the air, defying gravity with its ability to levitate. It is especially notable for its association with emotions such as extreme loneliness and isolation, suggesting a deeper narrative behind its existence. These feelings are thought to animate the Boroboroton, giving it a longing for human touch and interaction, which, according to legends, can lead to fatal encounters for those who come into contact with it. The Boroboroton does not always intend to engage in a fatal interaction with its victim. Rather, some of them just long for the days when they were cuddled, leading to a sort of quote-unquote hug of death. Powers associated with the Boroboroton include not only its unnerving levitation, but also its ability to induce mental sedation. This makes its victims feel an overwhelming sense of comfort and sleepiness, rendering them vulnerable to its embrace. Despite its seemingly benign appearance as a worn-out rug, the Boroboroton possesses a dangerous allure, capable of suffocating those who sleep upon it. In my view, the tale of the Boroboroton can be interpreted, at the very least, as a warning of the consequences of neglecting and disregarding what once provided comfort, rest, and warmth. However, I believe there may be more to this deceptively simple tale. Japanese civilization has been influenced throughout by Confucian thought. As you may or may not be aware, taking care of one's parents as they age is perhaps the strongest duty one has in the Confucian social order. I hypothesize that the Boroboroton thus may serve as an allegory for the importance of caring for one's parents as they age. If the sleeping mat, once a source of comfort and rest, is taken care of and treated properly, it never transforms into a Boroboroton. In this allegory, the Boroboroton's actions, while malevolent, are a call for recognition and acknowledgement of the elderly's needs, desires, and the respect they deserve. The Noparabo, or faceless ghost, is a yokai that is said to appear as a human being with a disturbing twist. Its face is a complete blank, with a smooth surface where the eyes, nose, and mouth should be. The Noparabo first gained widespread recognition during the Edo period in Japan, which lasted from 1603 to 1868. Folklore from this period is rich with tales of supernatural beings, and the Noparabo stands out as one of the most unsettling. The creature is often depicted as a harmless ghost that enjoys scaring humans. It typically appears late at night, in lonely or secluded places such as forests, riversides, or abandoned streets. One of the most famous stories involving this yokai is known as the Noparabo and the Koi Pond. In this tale, a man walking along a deserted road at night encounters a weeping woman by a pond. When he approaches to offer help, she turns around, revealing her faceless appearance. Terrified, the man flees to a nearby soba noodle shop, only to discover that the shopkeeper and the customers also have no faces. Another well-known story is known as the Faceless Ghost at the Rashomon Gate, which involves a samurai who encounters a woman washing clothes at the gate. She too reveals her faceless visage, causing the samurai to run in fear. These stories have been retold in various forms, including books, films, and theater, each adding to the legend of the Noparabo. The origins of the Noparabo legend are a mystery, with several theories attempting to explain the phenomenon. One theory suggests that the stories were created as a form of cautionary tale, to discourage people from wandering alone at night or into dangerous areas. This would have been particularly relevant in the Edo period, when travel could be perilous, and encounters with bandits or wild animals were not uncommon. Another theory posits that the Naparabo is a manifestation of deep-seated fears and anxieties within Japanese society. The facelessness of the Noparabo can be interpreted as a symbol of loss of identity or dehumanization. In a culture that places a high value on social harmony and conformity, the idea of losing one's identity or encountering someone without an identity could be profoundly unsettling. Others have posited the creature is just simply creepy, as a human without a face naturally offends our sensibilities. However, this doesn't explain why this yokai appears so prominently in Japanese culture, while similar beings either don't exist or are not prominent elsewhere. Still yet, others propose that this is a real creature, and importantly, it was accepted as a real creature for the vast majority of its history. That said, given the lack of apparent sightings today, the veracity of the creature has to be drawn into question. Still others propose that stories of the Naparabo are linked to psychotic breaks, wherein a person in a delusional framework perceives people as having no faces. Despite its eerie nature, the Naparabo is generally considered to be a benign spirit and does not harm its victims physically. Instead, it derives satisfaction from the fear and confusion it causes. The Koto Furunushi. The Koto Furunushi is a yokai recognized for its association with the koto, Japan's national instrument. The koto is a traditional Japanese stringed musical instrument, similar to a zither. It typically has 13 strings that are stretched over a long, hollow wooden body, played by plucking with the fingertips or picks attached to the fingers. The koto produces a distinctive resonant sound integral to various forms of Japanese music. This entity is categorized within a group of yokai known as tsukumogami. As discussed, tsukumogami are artifacts or household items that have acquired a spirit after 100 years of existence. The Koto Furunushi represents the spirit of an old koto that has manifested itself into a yokai after being neglected or forgotten. This transformation is a common theme in the lore surrounding tsukumogami, where objects, once cherished and then set aside, gain a new life as spirits with their unique personalities and characteristics. This is based on the animistic belief derived from Shinto folk beliefs that all objects have a spirit or essence. The Koto Furunushi, unlike many other yokai, is not typically malevolent. Instead, these creatures are more often characterized by their desire to make their presence felt or to express grievances about their neglect. The Koto Furunushi will generally act mischievously, playing a beautiful song just within earshot of individuals, but slowly stopping as they get closer to the source. They are also known to form friend groups with other tsukumogami, so if your koto is inexplicably beside your old umbrella and old sleeping mat, you know you've got a Koto Furunushi on your hands. But that's okay, because seriously, unlike basically every other yokai covered on this iceberg, there's literally no downside to the Koto Furunushi. There are even stories which suggests that if you treat it with enough respect, it will openly play special songs for you and your friends. The Omukade. The Omukade, a term which translates to giant centipede in Japanese, is another yokai which has been interpreted through the cryptid lens. This creature is depicted as a mammoth centipede, so vast it could encircle mountains, manifesting the Japanese cultural propensity to blend natural elements with supernatural mystique. Historically, the Omukade was known for its ferocity and formidable size, capable of preying on humans and even dragons, which places it among the most fearsome of yokai. Interestingly, despite its fearsome reputation and strength, the Omukade has a peculiar weakness to human saliva. One legendary account involving the Omukade tells of the hero Fujiwara no Hidesato. According to folklore, Hidesato slew a giant omukati near Lake Biwa, saving the local populace from the terror inflicted by the creature. Notably, the creature's vulnerability to human saliva played a pivotal role in its defeat by Fujiwara no Hidesato. Hidesato coated his arrows in his own saliva, significantly weakening this mighty beast to the point that a human could take it down. The Azuki Arai. The Azuki Arai, also known as Azuki Togi, is a truly unusual yokai. The essence of this yokai is captured by the mysterious sounds of Azuki beans being washed or ground, typically near rivers or other bodies of water. As a quick aside, Azuki beans are a type of red bean popular across East Asia that are often made into red bean paste. As discussed previously, like many well-known aspects of Japanese culture, the Azuki Arai's present form took hold during the Edo period, starting in the 17th century. Personally, I find it interesting that even the mundane act of washing beans is imbued with ghostly and spiritual significance. In terms of physical description, the Azuki Arai is very rarely sighted, and as such, varied physical descriptions exist. The Azuki Arai is sometimes envisioned as a small, lizard-like creature with sharp teeth and claws. Other descriptions of the creature indicate that it's a tiny humanoid creature with large bulging eyes and a generally offensive appearance. Still other descriptions indicate that the creature is a Japanese raccoon dog known as a tanuki, which is known to have magical abilities. So far, this probably sounds like just about the most mundane, paranormal, or cryptid phenomenon ever, right? This creature, which no one ever really seems to see, just happily washes beans. Pretty harmless, right? Nope. Wrong. You see, the story of this yokai has a much darker twist than you can imagine, and there's a reason no definitive account exists of the creature. According to folklore, if the Azuki Arai runs out of Azuki beans to wash, it doesn't just call it a day. It begins hunting for more Azuki beans to wash, or it seeks out humans. And trust me, it's not just looking to show off its collection of washed beans. It's hungry, and it won't stop hunting people until it acquires more beans. Anyway, the lesson here is that if you're in the Japanese countryside, near a river, be sure to carry some extra Azuki beans in your pocket. It could save your life. The Amakiri. The Amakiri, a lesser-known yokai from Japanese folklore, embodies the peculiar and intriguing nature of these supernatural entities. Literally translating to net cutter, the Amakiri is often depicted as a hybrid creature combining elements of a bird, snake, and lobster. It possesses sharp, scissor-like pincers, which it purportedly uses to slice through nets, be they fishing nets or mosquito nets. Historical references to the Amakiri are scant, but it is notably featured in Toriyama Sekien's Gazu Hyaki Yagyo, a classical Edo period compendium of yokai. Sekien's depiction doesn't accompany much explanatory text, suggesting that the creature might not have been widely recognized or deeply embedded in folklore prior to his work. Some speculate that the Amakiri, much like other yokai in Sekien's collections, was a product of the artist's imagination. Nevertheless, by the inclusion in this classic, the creature, even if it had no folklore precedent prior, took on a life of its own. Despite its seemingly trivial pursuit of cutting nets, the Amakiri's actions could be quite detrimental, particularly in a historical context where fishing nets were valuable for livelihoods. Further, mosquito nets were crucial for protection against disease-bearing insects. Such activities place the Amakiri in the broader category of yokai, known for causing minor to moderate disruptions and inconveniences. Belief in the Amakiri appears to have waned throughout the 19th century and early 20th century, with the creature now apparently having few, if any, true believers. I hypothesize that this is likely because of the diminished value of fishing in the Japanese economy as the country industrialized. Further, I also hypothesize that the complete eradication of malaria by the mid 20th century made the idea of a spirit that chops malaria nets more quaint than horrific. The Hibagon. The Hibagon, Japan's elusive Bigfoot relative, has been sighted around Mount Hiba in Hiroshima Prefecture. Unlike Bigfoot's widespread sightings across North America, the Hibagon's appearances were concentrated over a brief period, predominantly between 1970 and 1982. The creature is described as ape-like, standing around 7 feet, covered in bristly fur, and sometimes reported to possess a face resembling burnt wood. One of the most famous encounters occurred in 1974, when a motorist captured a photograph of the Hibagon, which, despite its poor quality, became a significant piece of evidence for its existence. The Hibagon shares similarities with North America's Bigfoot, including descriptions of a large, hairy, bipedal creature. However, the sightings are unique to the Hiroshima area and lack the widespread and continuous reports characteristic of Bigfoot sightings. Theories about the Hibagon range from an unknown hominid or ape, possibly a relic from when Japan was connected to the Asian mainland, to more fantastical explanations like a Japanese soldier holdout from World War II donning an ape costume and raiding the locals. Despite extensive interest and investigation, including efforts by the University of Kobe, the mystery of the creature remains unsolved, with no confirmed sightings since the early 1980s. Given that the cryptid was only seen for a well-defined period of time, I would suggest that there is the possibility that it was an escaped ape of some sort. In the alternative, it might have been a mass hysteria type event, where people were primed to see Japanese black bears as Hibagon. The Gotoku Neko. The Gotoku Neko is a captivating figure in Japanese folklore, particularly renowned through the artwork of Toriyama Seiken in his Yokai Compendium. The Gotoku Neko, translating literally to tripod cat, is depicted uniquely, utilizing common household items in its portrayal. The creature is shown wearing a stand used for kettles over fires on its head in a manner resembling a crown, and using a bamboo blowpipe used for stoking fires. It is unclear if the Gotoku Neko was a well-known yokai prior to Seiken's portrayal of the creature, though most of his illustrations drew strongly upon various folk beliefs and religious traditions. The powers of the Gotoku Neko primarily revolve around fire. The creature's ability to manipulate fire using traditional tools suggests a level of supernatural influence over elemental forces, a feature typical of yokai. Other features of this cat yokai are its abilities to use household tools much like a human, which is a pretty fantastic power for a creature with no opposable thumbs. The Daidarabochi. The Daidarabochi is a fascinating yokai, embodying the colossal and the mysterious. This yokai is depicted as a giant of such immense proportions that its actions have profoundly shaped the landscape of Japan. During previous discussions of yokai in this series, we've learned that many or most of these creatures, despite appearing ancient, are actually from the Edo period starting in the 17th century. The Daidarabochi, on the other hand, is actually an ancient tradition, with the first known written record of it being from the 8th century AD. The Daidarabochi belongs to a class of yokai that are so large they are often mistaken for mountains, or are believed to have created lakes and ponds with their footprints. Various regions in Japan have their own tales and local names for Daidarabochi, underscoring the widespread cultural impact of this mythological giant. The lore surrounding it suggests that many of Japan's geographical features were formed by the Daidarabochi lying down to rest, or by its immense footsteps. Other local traditions suggest that small mountains are actually sleeping Daidarabochi, which have become covered with vegetation. I note that given the ancient origins of this yokai, this creature also provides insight into early Japanese history. For instance, there's an early story from the mid-portion of the first millennium AD, which indicates that a Daidarabachi physically went to Korea, brought additional land and people to Japan. I note that this story is interesting from a historical perspective, because the Yayoi people, who ended up forming the majority of Japan's population, originally came from the Korean peninsula. These people are speculated to have come over to the Japanese archipelago between 300 BC and 300 AD, wherein they began to displace and integrate the native Jomon peoples. This suggests that the Daidarabachi may have been created partly out of the cultural memory of this migration. The Akaname. The Akaname is recognized chiefly for its unique habit, licking filth and grime from unkempt bathrooms and derelict buildings. This yokai, which translates literally to filth licker, is depicted traditionally as a red-skinned, impish entity with a long, protruding tongue dedicated to cleaning away dirt and dust. Often depicted as a deterrent for poor hygiene, particularly among children, the Akaname carries an underlying message promoting cleanliness and sanitation. The physical characteristics of the Akaname depicted as a small, goblin-like entity. It's capable of fitting in one's hand, with greasy hair, webbed limbs, and a particularly long, sticky tongue used for its unique diet of muck and grime. This creature's preference for inhabiting filthy areas like dirty restrooms or abandoned homes turns it into a peculiar custodian of cleanliness. Despite its unsettling appearance and habits, the Akaname is not typically seen as dangerous, but rather as an eerie reminder of the importance of not letting things get dirty. Historically, the Akaname's origin might tie back to superstitions surrounding the public bathhouses of ancient Japan, where poor hygiene could lead to disease outbreaks. In modern times, while actual sightings of Akaname are not documented, their legacy persists in popular culture. They now primarily serve as quaint, though grotesque reminders for children to stay clean. The Tofu Kozo. The Tofu Kozo, translating to Tofu Boy in English, is one of the most unique yokai profiled on this iceberg. In the present day, the Tofu Kozo is fairly obscure. However, back in its heyday, it was amongst the most well-known yokai. This creature, first making its appearance in the literature of the 1770s, rapidly gained popularity in Edo period Japan, a time rich in urbanization and cultural development. Characterized by its depiction as a childlike entity bearing tofu, the Tofu Kozo navigates the fine line between the benign and the potentially malevolent. The Tofu Kozo was portrayed in literature of the time as humorous, with its decidedly non-menacing appearance leading to it being picked on by other yokai. In some myths surrounding the Tofu Kozo, the creature follows humans on rainy nights, maintaining a set distance, and always holding out an offering of tofu on a plate. One of the more ominous legends surrounding the Tofu Kozo involves the consequences of consuming the tofu it offers. It is said that ingesting this tofu could lead to the growth of a deadly fungus inside the victim, ultimately draining their life force. This tale underscores the duality of the Tofu Kozo, juxtaposing its seemingly innocuous appearance with a hidden, deadly nature. However, this portion of the legend is thought to have been added later on as a lesson for children not to accept food of unknown origin. And honestly, it's just good policy not to accept food from random creatures. Notably, there are other variants of the Tofu Kozo as well, with the most common variant depicting the creature as a one-eyed supernatural entity. By the end of the 19th century, the Tofu Kozo had largely faded from public consciousness, with this yokai no longer being commonly referenced or well known. Further, unlike other yokai which have now become ingrained in manga, anime, and video games, The tofu kozo has lacked any such renaissance. I guess it's just hard to be taken seriously when your main ability as a yokai is the ability to maintain a polite distance and offer tofu. If you liked this iceberg video and want a further yokai iceberg, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to check out the YouTube membership and Patreon. You can support my channel for as little as 99 cents a month. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't done so already. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, and Blasphemoose. Special shout out to new patron Metanova. Big shout out to YouTube member Jordan All. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone.